All right, team, here we go. Welcome to part one of our three-part OHST exam prep series for identifying the basic hazards. Quick question. If OSHA showed up at your site tomorrow, could you spot the top hazards before they did? If you hesitated, this video is for you. In this first session, we'll lock in the foundations, OSHA's must-know standards, how to classify and recognize hazards, the right way to store and contain dangerous materials. This isn't just a theory. Every tip you'll hear is grounded in real OSHA and NFPA regs. So you're not just prepping for the test. You're learning field-ready knowledge you can use tomorrow. Quick disclaimer, this video is based on the Mometrics OHST Exam Secrets Study Guide and the Safety Professionals Reference and Study Guide. It's designed to support your learning and exam prep, not to replace official training or regulatory instruction. And remember, this is only part one. In part two, we'll dig into physical hazards and controls. In part three, we'll tackle PPE, advanced hazards, and high-stakes scenarios. So grab a notebook, lean in, and let's get you one step closer to passing that OHST. Here we go. These are the big hitters for the OHST exam. You will see them, so let's make them stick. 1910, 134, respiratory protection. Think 134, I can't breathe on this floor. Mask, filters, anything that helps you breathe clean air when the air gets mean. 1910, 146, confined spaces. 146 sounds like you're getting stuck in a fix. Confined spaces are tricky, small, tight, maybe even deadly. Know your entry permits and the rescue plan. 1910, 147, lockout, tagout. This one is easy. 147 is lotto heaven. You're cutting power and locking systems down so no one gets hurt. 1910, 178, powered industrial trucks. 178 is your forklift fate. Know your driver training, load limits, and dock procedures. Picture the beep beep of a forklift backing up. 1910, 1200, hazard communication. 1200 equal HAZCOM 100, MSDS pictograms, labels. If it's hazardous and you handle it, this is your standard. 1926, subpart M, fall protection. M is for man down. It's construction related. If you're 6 feet up or higher, you need a harness. 1926 is the year fall protection was born. Nope, not really, but it'll help you remember. Pro tip, make flashcards. Recite them like a rhythm. Drill it until it's muscle memory. And trust me, these standards will carry you through more than just the test. OSHA 1910.119 covers highly hazardous chemicals, those that are toxic, flammable, or reactive. For the OHST exam, focus on its core purpose, preventing catastrophic chemical releases. It requires a written emergency plan and employee participation in safety procedures. Appendix A is critical. It lists regulated chemicals like ammonia over 44%, hydrogen chloride, and hydrogen fluoride. Remember, Appendix A defines the scope. Emergency planning and employee involvement are essential for compliance. Now let's talk about CERCLA. That's the law that covers hazardous substances needing special cleanup and disposal. These chemicals are listed in section 101.14, and they're no joke. We're talking about arsenic, lead, mercury, dioxin, and chloroform. Some of the most toxic substances on industrial sites, because of the serious health risk like birth defects, reproductive harm, and cancer, employers must use trained hazmat teams. Bottom line, CERCLA is about long-term protection for the environment and for human health. If you see a question about cancer, birth defects, or chemicals needing hazmat handling, think CERCLA and Section 101.14. The NFPA hazard diamond is a fast visual way to communicate chemical risk. Each color and position tells a different story. Red at the top means flammability. Blue on the left signals health hazards. Yellow on the right shows reactivity, and white at the bottom is for special hazards. The numbers go from 0 to 4. 0 is minimal risk. 4 means severe danger. For example, a flammability rating of 3, that's a substance that can ignite below 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a common question on the OHST exam. Here's your shortcut. Health takes the left. Fire rises to the top. Reactions go right, and extras fall to the bottom. It's simple, visual, and critical when time matters. Let's break down the special hazard symbols that you're going to see in the white section at the bottom of the NFPA diamond. These aren't used every time, but when they show up, they matter. OXY means the chemical is an oxidizer. It can fuel fire even without air. COR means corrosive, dangerous to skin and metal. W means no water. The substance could react violently if it gets wet. You also might see ALK for alkalis and acid for acidic materials. And here's a common exam trap. Don't mix up NFPA's diamond system with OSHA's HAZCOM workplace labels. If the question mentions the color-coded diamond, that's NFPA. When it comes to hazardous materials, storage isn't just about staying organized. It's about preventing fires, spills, and dangerous exposure. Start by storing chemicals by hazard type. Never mix incompatible substances. Use sealed glass containers for reactive organics and label every container with the chemical name and the hazard class. Now, flammable materials, stricter rules apply. Use metal containers only. Plastic is a no-go. Storage areas must be ventilated, fire rated, and have at least 3 feet of clearance. Quick tip for the exam. If you see plastic containers used for flammable liquids, that's a red flag. Stick with metal and proper spacing. When you're storing corrosive materials like acids and bases, the container really matters. Use plastic or corrosion-resistant materials to prevent dangerous reactions. And always keep acids and bases separated. If they mix, you risk a violent exothermic reaction. Make sure storage cabinets are vented to prevent fume buildup. Now let's talk about incompatibility hazards. Mixing the wrong chemicals can lead to toxic gas, heat, or explosions. Here are a few examples. Acids and bleach, toxic gas. Acids and bases, hydrogen gas and heat. Acids with oxidizers, boom, literal explosion. The rule is simple. Label everything and store incompatible materials far apart with ventilation in between. Hazardous material containment is critical. It must hold 110% of the largest container or 10% of the total volume, whichever is greater. Containers also need to be chemically compatible. Don't mix the wrong materials with the wrong tanks. Inspect containment regularly and fix any issues right away. And don't skip the plan. You need an emergency response plan ready in case of a spill. This concept shows up often on the exam. Know the numbers. Secondary containment rules come down to a simple comparison. You take 110% of the largest single container and you compare it to 10% of the total volume stored on site. Let's see how that works with this tank and drum setup. For this rule, we focus only on the single largest container. Even though there's also a 55-gallon drum, the biggest risk is the 1,000-gallon tank. Multiplying that by 110% gives us 1,100 gallons. That's the containment requirement under this rule. Now let's apply the total volume rule. We add both containers together, 1,000 gallons plus the 55-gallon drum for a total of 1,055 gallons. 10% of that is about 105.5. Notice how much smaller this number is compared to the largest container rule. Now let's compare our two results. The largest container rule gave us 1,100 gallons, while the total volume rule came out to just over 105 gallons. OSHA requires that we always choose the larger number. So in this case, our secondary containment must hold at least 1,100 gallons. All right, team, let's bring this home. Here's your recap. When calculating secondary containment, you've always got two numbers to compare. 110% of the largest single container, or 10% of the total volume stored. And the rule is simple, whichever number is larger wins. In our example, that was 1,100 gallons. That's the standard OSHA expects, and it's a common OHST exam trap. So remember, don't guess, don't round down, run the numbers and choose the bigger one. That's how you protect your site and ace the exam. Now this wraps up volume 1 of our 3-part series. We've covered the foundations, OSHA standards, hazard recognition, and containment essentials, but this is just the start. In volume 2, we'll dive into physical hazards and controls, heat and cold stress, confined spaces, fall protection, and the hierarchy of controls every safety leader must master. You'll find volume 2 in a separate video, so click through when you're ready and keep your momentum going. This is Field to Compliance. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in volume 2.